Here's a light.
Okay.
All rise for the pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Welcome everybody to the September 16th meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Tarrytown. We'll begin with any board miscellaneous or liaison reports. I don't know if any are. Nope.
Surprise!
No?
Yes, I do.
Yes, you do.
Of course I do. It's that time of year again. There's almost entirely too much for me to even begin to go into with coming up with all the fall and the Halloween and the everything. But I'll just mention that the tag sale is this coming Saturday from 10 to 5. It's too late for, if you wanted to be on the map and be part of the village-wide tag sale, it's too late to be on the map. That doesn't mean you can't put a sign up that says tag sale this way for yourself and join in that way. But you cannot any longer be put on the map. The other thing I wanted to mention was to please, if you have a chance, to go to either the website or go down to the rec department and pick up one of the fall brochures, because as I was going through it tonight, there's a ton of stuff in there of interest for all ages and all people, and I just want to include in that we also have a children's workshop that started up. That's on Wednesdays, and it's for children 7 to 11. There's also a youth tennis clinic that's on Tuesdays and Thursdays for all ages. There's a volleyball for grades 3 through 5 that's starting up. There's also adult tennis clinics on Saturday and Sunday. So rather than go through all this, I just encourage you to check our website or go to the pick up a brochure down at the village rec department. Thanks.
It's also available here.
Pardon me?
Is the brochure or
I think we can still get a brochure, and you also can get it on at the library too. Thank you, everybody.
Anybody on this side? No, sir. All right, nothing to speak.
I just want to say that the fall also means that elections are coming up, and the deadline to register to vote is coming up. It's October 11th, so it's really easy to go and vote. 5 minutes at ny.gov, and you'll be able to register in the November elections.
Thank you.
And I think this is the first year they're going to be early voting. Is that correct?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Right, there's early voting. Have sites been set? Are there still?
I think they have finalized them, but they didn't announce
They
them.
haven't announced it.
So originally, they had asked us to, they had asked us if we wanted to be one, and I responded yes, but then I never heard back from
Heard
them.
back.
When I checked, they said, we've already picked the sites.
Oh, okay.
So,
And we didn't get picked?
We don't
Isn't
know.
it? No, we
might
weren't
have.
picked.
Oh, you know that.
Yeah, we were not picked.
Thank
And it's starting 2 weeks before, so October 2nd, so it's 2 weeks.
We have a train station and everything.
They're probably picking them in the more central, like, city locations and
I
places.
forget how many they said they were going to be.
I thought it
did
was
see it in the
6
paper, but I've
West.
forgotten. The only thing I have again is to repeat what I said last time. It's September 28th is the household recycling fall drop-off days at FDR State Park on Route 202 in Yorktown. It's a great opportunity to get rid of stuff that might be in your garage, such as automotive fluids, flammable liquids, polishes, pesticides, swimming pool chemicals, propane tanks. I do know that the last time they did it at the Murph in Yonkers, they were very efficient. It didn't take long at all. So aside from driving there, they were really good. It's 1, 2, 3. So it's September 28th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. And I'm sure if you go on Westchester, what's their site, westchestergov.com, you can find the details of it. Okay. There's no changes or additions to the agenda, I don't believe. And Richard, do you have a administrative report?
I got a few things to report on, and I'll try to keep it brief. One of the reported items that we included was the Artist Senior Center or living application, and I'll save that for last. Today we met with the Recreation Department, and we had a very successful year down at the pool. We are fixing the railing and some other things just to wrap up the year. We'll be buying new umbrellas and chairs to replace any ones that are broken or worn out from this year, and just already planning to get ready and get ahead for next year. We had a total of 1,271 members this year, which was great. Also, the fitness center at present has 405 members. That includes both monthly and annual members. So we welcome anybody who's a Tarrytown resident to come down and explore joining the fitness center. We're continuing to work with improvements on the Losi Park. The Riverwalk is proceeding nicely. There's a question that came up today, and my inclination, unless the board tells me otherwise, there was a question about where we should put the railing on the section of Riverwalk by Losi. So the question is, should we put it on the new concrete curb that went in next to the path, or move it over 3 or 4 feet and then attach it to the top of the bulkhead? My preference would be to put it on top of the bulkhead, because then people will be less inclined to climb over it and then get close to the water or look at the water on the opposite side of the railing. If you put up the railing at the edge of the
Sensible from
water.
here.
So that's my inclination, among some other things. Let's see. We had a good year with softball. They are at the end of the season, and they're getting into the eliminations and the finals. Everything will wrap up on September 26th. That'll be the end of the season. We're planning ahead, so we're putting in irrigation in Losi Park to wrap up all the improvements and other things we've done down there. Riverwalk should be completed this fall, we hope. I'm not going to say definitely, but we hope before the turkey trot that's going to be on the Sunday before Thanksgiving. So if anybody wants to join us for the Tarrytown Trudy Dunbar Memorial Turkey Trot on Sunday before Thanksgiving, please, we will have information on that soon, hopefully in October. So
November.
There's a
people-
turkey walk as part of that, right?
What's that?
There's a turkey walk as part of that as well. It's not-
I don't know, do we do a walk too?
I think people walk.
I think you can walk if you want to.
Certainly we'll allow it, yeah.
You might
But
be
it's
right.
really a nice flat course along the waterfront, it's really beautiful. Yeah. Also, we're planning ahead to plan for the tree lighting in December.
Yeah.
And we will be fixing lights on the tree just to make sure everything's up and running and ready to go. And then the big one, our big fall event will be the Tarrytown Halloween Parade, which will be Saturday, October 26th. And that's coming up very soon.
Remind me, may I say that there's a gathering at the Setback Inn to raise some funds to make it the best parade we've ever had. That's next Thursday at the Setback Inn, yes,
24th at 5:30.
at
It starts,
5:30.
yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And also, Richard, with all the recreation stuff you were mentioning, and Becky, it's always worthwhile to remind people to get the recreation parking permit.
Yeah.
For
Yes.
residents, it's free.
Those are
Be able to
available.
Park at the riverfront after 2 PM. And if you're lucky enough to have Yankee playoff tickets, come with a resident parking permit
There you go.
as well, but it's free, so it's available down here.
Okay.
So if you don't have one, and you don't have a commuter parking permit, you should have a resident parking permit.
Yep.
Resident recreation permit.
There are 2 emergency training exercises or workshops that we're having next Thursday, or this
This
Thursday, it's coming up quick. This Thursday, September 19th, from 3 PM to 9:30 PM, the traffic will be impacted on West Main Street. We will have closures of West Main Street pretty much from Orchard Street, right past River Market, to the end of the cul-de-sac out by the river.
To
So
the
if
water.
anybody who lives in Hudson Harbor wants to get in there, they'll have to go either be at home in that area, or they'll be able to approach their units from the backside, from the private streets off of
Are they getting
Division.
notices to the?
We're
effect in
gonna,
advance?
we've posted it, what's that?
I think we're gonna send out a notice.
Well, we're gonna send out a reverse 911.
911.
To that area.
I've emailed some of the top people who are on their board to
Right.
let them know and ask them to circulate information. The police department will start posting notices
Right.
tomorrow on the streets, and the reverse 911 phone call will go out as well.
That's from 3 to when?
Well, the planning will actually happen beginning at 3. People will
Right.
be collecting up at Phelps and down here in the village at
Right.
3. We'll be getting the van to transport the volunteers back and forth. The event actually runs, I believe, from 5 to 8:30?
Yeah, but I'll probably be impacted down there 5 to 7.
That's why we thought it would be really like 4 to 8,
Yeah,
something like that.
just open the window just so people are aware. I mean,
Yeah.
but the crux of the event starts at 5.
Yeah. So the intent of this is to see how things might function during what everybody terms a, major event at a public gathering. And since we have so many of those, we thought it was very important to be,
Will people be allowed to park in the rec lot?
no.
No. Well,
Because
we might-
yes, people will
And-
not be allowed to park in the rec lot. We
Yes,
will-
no, they
Right.
won't.
No, we will
But-
have all the equipment, the vehicles, the people involved set
Okay.
up in that area.
What about the
there will be-
commuters in that
I'm
other
sorry?
lot next to it?
Lot D will be open except for the last row of Lot D next to the rec lot. That lot,
It's my husband.
that row of, the last row of Lot D will be set up for people who want to
All
use
right.
the fitness center. So the fitness center will remain open for that whole time frame.
Thank you.
And then, let's see, so that's that, the recreation. So I will read the other report that we put together on behalf of the artist application.
That's what you're doing now?
Yes.
Okay.
So this is on the agenda as part of my report. We just wanted to let the public know there is an application by artists through Silverman Realty for, what is the address again?
It's on the,
153 White Plains Road.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
153 White Plains Road. The FEIS, or the final environmental impact statement documents, have been submitted. It is presently under review by the planning board, and if it is accepted on September 23rd, the planning board would have 30 days to prepare the findings. If the findings are accepted on October 28th, the planning board would then refer it back to the mayor and board of trustees. And the board of trustees would then schedule a hearing sometime in either late November or sometime in December. So this application, it will be for 60 even memory care, long-term memory care facility beds. So that's people with severe dementia and Alzheimer's, you know, who are in need of regular care.
And what we're considering is a change of use, the
A
change of
zoning
zoning.
language to allow it to happen there.
Okay.
And it'll actually, I think it'll actually be a little overlay zone,
be an overlay zone.
overlay zone for the 119 corridor.
Right.
So, I just want to give the public an update on that.
Thank you.
And that's it on that.
That's it on that.
All right. The first item is a public hearing on landscaping, Article 1, the green industry contractors. This was, we discovered that we had a piece of our code which required a report, a very detailed and local report from the green industry as to pesticide and herbicide use, which was actually duplicative largely of what they are required, that's required by the state.
True.
And,
Do you want to do number 4?
You jumped over.
oh, I did, I crossed it out. All right. Well, I'll keep on going with number 5.
That's okay, that's fine.
Sorry, you're right. I crossed out the one on my piece of paper.
That's a
Right.
We're not doing it.
I didn't look to the right,
That's okay.
so we'll go back to 4. And so what we're doing is we're removing that requirement from our code, but the green industry contractors still have to make that report based on, I think it's zip code to the state. So can I have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Does anybody wish to speak on that? If not, I'll take a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Tarrytown does hereby amend the Code of the Village of Tarrytown, Chapter 205, the Landscaping, Article 1, Green Industry Contractors, to delete the requirement for annual reports of pesticides and herbicides, which is regulated by the New York State DEC. Whereas a public hearing was held for the proposed action on September 16th, 2019, and whereas a notice of public hearing was published in the Journal News on September 6th, 2019, and whereas the Board of Trustees of the Village of Tarrytown is the only agency which has approval authority over the proposed action and is therefore the lead agency for the proposed action, now therefore be it resolved as follows. In accordance with Article 8 of the State Environmental Conservation Law and 6 NYCRR Part 617, including without limitations the criteria set forth in 6 NYCRR Part 617.7C. And based upon review of the proposed action, the Village Board of Trustees hereby determines that the proposed action will not have a significant adverse impact on the environment and hereby adopts a negative declaration. And now therefore be it further resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Tarrytown does hereby adopt local law number 8 of 2019.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next, going backwards, public hearing on the rezoning of Lot 37 South Depot Plaza. Can I have a motion to open the public hearing? I guess Richard and Kathy, you want to give a little summary of what we're doing?
I'll make that motion.
Oh, you want the
The
applicant?
applicant's
wants to-
counsel.
Okay, so we have a motion to open the public
So
hearing?
moved.
So moved, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All in favor? I said all in favor. Yeah, I did twice.
We're still there.
It's really in favor.
Good evening, just for the record, my name is Stephen Rabel. I'm with the law firm of McCullough, Goldberger, and Stout. I'm here on behalf of Tarrytown Self-Storage 2 LLC. As the board knows, we're looking to rezone Lot 37 from the waterfront WD district to the industrial ID district. Linda Whitehead from my office previously appeared before the board and outlined all of the reasons for this rezoning. I know the public hearing has been continued. If the board has any questions or would like me to reiterate any of the prior points made, I'm happy to do so. Otherwise, I'll leave it to the public to comment.
I don't know if anybody here to comment. If you just want to, if you give a little bit of the uniqueness of this spot, which is, and how it was sort of separate from the rest of what's
Sure.
down there. And so the public, because the public's not gonna have any idea what we're talking about.
Of course. So the property is currently zoned for the waterfront district, although it's really across the tracks from the true waterfront district in this area. There's a couple other lots that are also zoned WD, but they both are owned by the MTA and used for parking. This really doesn't, the zoning that's currently there really doesn't suit this particular lot. We don't need the lot area or width requirements for the WD. None of the uses permitted in the WD would really fit on this property. So we're looking to be rezoned to the ID district, which is consistent with lots 38,
It's
39.
right next door to it.
Which is right next door, and we believe is much more in keeping with this specific area.
And we got a recommendation from the planning board to do this.
Correct.
Just want to have that repeated, so, okay. Anything else you guys want to add?
Well, just in front of you, before the board, is a proposed negative declaration that I could quickly summarize if you want, that goes through some of the reasons
Okay,
that you would be issuing a negative
Right.
declaration. So it just reiterates that it goes through the surrounding zoning and development, that uses in the WD district are not feasible on the subject property, and actually the previous use was not even allowed. And the applicant is proposing an adaptive reuse of the existing building on the property. Then it goes through consistency with the land use plan, and also a mitigation measures that it's proposed for a brew pub or restaurant, which would be the subject of a separate site plan review. So that would,
of the actual proposal.
right, so that would go back before the planning board. It goes through the zoning history, that it appears that an error was made when lot 37 was actually put in the WD zone. Discusses infrastructure, the environmental constraints, that it's not in a floodplain or within wetland area. And then it proposes that the board adopt a secret negative determination of significance, that based on the board's review of part 2 of the EAF and the applicant's narrative and review of the zoning history of the subject property, the analysis and recommendation of the planning board dated 6/14/19, and the applicant's intended adaptive reuse of the existing building as a brew pub or restaurant to potentially complement the adjacent proposed mixed-use project under review by the planning board, which is on lot 38. And also that the property owner represented that he would, or the property owner would deed restrict the property to preclude self-storage. And that's another thing that was important to this board, because there is an existing approval for self-storage, and really you wouldn't be able to put that use there, and it would be duplicative. And based on that, this board would be determining that the proposed action does not have a significant impact on the environment.
It's a, I don't know if you did say this, it's less than a quarter acre.
Yeah.
0.29,000 square feet. Okay, is there any other members of the public who want to speak on this?
Are we closing the public hearing tonight?
Yeah, we're gonna close it,
Yes.
right?
Okay, then I'll speak.
Right.
I just want to
I mean, I
encourage,
think we're closing it,
I think-
unless something
I
happens.
know it's
between now
early and
then.
what you're going to be doing, but I just want to encourage you to consider, when you do get into the lot 37 and go for a use for it, that you recognize that next door to you is the Franklin Courts, not only the homes, but also the apartment building there, and it's very close in proximity to where you're proposing some of your pub ideas and microbrewery. I'd just like you to, I can encourage you to work with the people there to bring them into the loop so that there's no misunderstanding, and encourage them to speak out and know what's going on. So I just wanted to put that in the record. Thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Anybody else want to speak? Do you want to speak in this? No, okay. Okay, guess that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I will take a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, whereas the applicant, Tarrytown Self-Storage 2 LLC, the applicant, submitted a petition to amend the Tarrytown zoning map to rezone 29 South Depot Plaza SBL 1.70/29/37, the property, from the warehouse district WD to the industrial district ID, whereas a public hearing was held for the proposed action on August 19th, 2019, September 3rd, 2019, and September 16th, 2019, and whereas a notice of public hearing was published in the Journal News on August 25th, 2019, and whereas the Board of Trustees of the Village of Tarrytown is the only agency which has approval authority over the proposed action and is therefore the lead agency for the proposed action, whereas the proposed petition was circulated to the Westchester County Planning Board in accordance with Section 239 LM and N of the General Municipal Law and Section 277.61 of the County Administrative Code, and whereas the Westchester County Planning Board determined the proposed zoning to be a matter of local determination. Now therefore be it resolved as follows, in accordance with Article 8 of the State Environmental Conservation Law and 6 NYCRR Part 617, including without limitations the criteria set forth in 6 NYCRR Part 617.7C, and based upon review of the proposed action, the Village Board of Trustees hereby determines that the proposed action will not have a significant adverse impact on the environment and hereby adopts the attached negative declaration. Now therefore be it further resolved that to the extent that certain comments by the County Planning Board suggested that the village take a more comprehensive review in the context of adopting regulations for industrial districts near train station, the Village Board overrides said comments as the placement of the property in the WD zone appears to have been a mistake since no permitted uses would be allowed and the applicant is proposing an adaptive reuse of the existing building on the property. Now therefore be it further resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Tarrytown does hereby adopt local law number 7 of 2019 to amend the Tarrytown zoning map to rezone the property from the waterfront district WD to the industrial district ID. You know, I think earlier on I said warehouse district. Is WD warehouse district or waterfront district?
Waterfront.
Waterfront, okay. So I would amend the first whereas to say waterfront district WD.
Yes, up there at the top.
Yep. Okay, to the industrial district ID, which designation will so allow for the proposed adaptive reuse of the existing building on the property as craft brewery, pub, or restaurant, subject to obtaining site plan approval. That's it.
As amended.
Motion? Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. I see, all right. Number 6, public hearing. To amend the various provisions of the village code to reflect supervision in the Department of Public Works by the Superintendent of Public Works in Chapter 183, Garbage, Rubbish, and Refuse, Chapter 281, Trees, Chapter 101, Building, Chapter 259, Streets and Sidewalks. Have a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Second?
Aye.
All in
I
favor?
said aye.
Aye.
And Richard, do you want to go through a very brief description of that?
Sure. Very simply, the village for maybe 7 or 8 years now has had a superintendent in charge of our Department of Public Works. This is really just bringing things up to the current day and how we function, because the old department head used to be the general foreman, so this puts the proper person in the code.
So, lines up with what we're
Correct.
actually doing.
What we actually do.
Okay. We have a motion and a second, and everybody voted for it. Does anybody wish to speak on this matter? If not, I will take a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Okay. Be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Tarrytown does hereby amend the Code of the Village of Tarrytown to reflect supervision in the Department of Public Works by the Superintendent of Public Works, and amending Chapter 183, Garbage, Rubbish, and Refuse, Chapter 281, Trees, Chapter 101, Building, Chapter 259, Streets and Sidewalks, to reflect the Superintendent of Public Works' position to be responsible to enforce the village's rules and regulations of these chapters. And whereas a public hearing was held for the proposed action on September 16th, 2019, and whereas a notice of public hearing was published in the Journal News on September 6, 2019, and whereas the Board of Trustees of the Village of Tarrytown is the only agency which has approval authority over the proposed action and is therefore the lead agency for the proposed action, now therefore be it resolved as follows. In accordance with Article 8 for the State Environmental Conservation Law and 6 NYCRR Part 617, including without limitations the criteria set forth in 6 NYCRR Part 617.7C, and based upon review of the proposed action, the Village Board of Trustees hereby determines that the proposed action will not have a significant adverse impact on the environment and hereby adopts a negative declaration. And now therefore be it further resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Tarrytown does hereby adopt local law number 9 of 2019.
So moved, Mr. Mayor. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next, opportunity for the public to address the board on agenda items. Speakers have
Carol,
3 minutes
Carol.
to address the board.
Tom's here.
Anybody?
Tom should go open the dais.
So we invite
Trustee
Trustee Butler.
Butler should join
Yes, if
you all
you
on the
would like to
dais, please.
Come up, I don't know.
I'm not giving up the seat.
Come on down.
Yeah, if you like, you can, you may. Okay,
Okay.
no comments? We'll go on. Appointment of a part-time intermediate clerk. Be resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Tarrytown does hereby authorize the appointment of Diane Verdi of Irvington, New York, as a part-time intermediate clerk for the court in the Village of Tarrytown at an annual salary of $20, effective on, at an hourly salary of $20, effective on Tuesday, September 17th, 2019, subject to the provisions of civil service rules and regulations.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Salary change for the part-time intermediate clerk. Be resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Tarrytown does hereby amend Jean Mary Cancro's hourly salary as part-time intermediate clerk in the village court to $25. Motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Appointment of a temporary part-time laborer in the Department of Public Works. Be resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Tarrytown does hereby authorize the appointment of Carlos Leon as temporary part-time laborer for the Department of Public Works in the Village of Tarrytown at an hourly salary of $18, effective October 1, 2019 through December 31, 2019, subject to all civil service rules and regulations.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next, we have the authorization to acceptance of a donation of 5 to 10 trees. Be resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Tarrytown is hereby authorize the acceptance of a donation of trees, somewhere between 5 and 10, to the village from the EF School to be planted near the Tarrytown Lakes for students and the general public to enjoy.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next,
So
we have the
we just
accept-
wanted to thank the EF school. We met with them, representatives of the school. They're very interested in trying to make things greener and contribute to global benefits and, think globally, act locally. So,
And there's always trees that die, so it's good.
yes, so we're thankful to them. for
They
this.
don't live forever, and they get destroyed in storms.
Yep.
Okay, we have acceptance of, they do die.
Yep.
Acceptance of open space parcels, the Toll Brothers in Wilson Park. This is a long time coming. This project has been around for, geez, I don't know.
20 years.
20, yeah, close to 20 years, huh? This is not the end of the road. There still are some parcels left that'll be transferred, right? And there's still some work to be done, but this takes another piece of the puzzle. Be resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Tarrytown does hereby accept the offer of dedication from Toll Land 5, or V, Limited Partnership, of 3 open space parcels designated as open space parcels in the subdivision known as Westchester Estates at Wilson Park Drive, in a form acceptable to the village attorney upon the condition that an agreed-upon gate and gate control system is purchased and installed as determined by the village administrator and the village building inspector. And be it further resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Tarrytown does hereby immediately authorize the village administrator to execute the trail and access easement agreement for Lot 10 in a form acceptable to the village attorney and with toll to pay all costs associated with recording and providing proof of the recording to the village. And be it further resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Tarrytown does hereby accept the offer of dedication for sewer and water infrastructure from Toll Land V Limited Partnership upon the condition that an agreed-upon gate and gate control system is purchased and installed as determined by the village administrator and village building inspector. And be it further resolved that upon condition that an agreed-upon gate and gate control system is purchased and installed as determined by the village administrator and village building inspector, and as agreed to by representatives from Toll Brothers, the Board of Trustees of the Village of Tarrytown does hereby authorize the village administrator to execute 1, the roadway and utility easement granting the village an easement over Wilson Park Drive for snow and ice removal and for access to water and sewer infrastructure for maintenance purpose in a form acceptable to the village attorney, and 2, the access easement agreement, the supplemental Lot 2 access easement, pursuant to the Lot 2 site plan approval in a form acceptable to the village attorney, and with toll to pay all costs associated with recording and providing proof of the recording to the village. And be further resolved that the village administrator is authorized to execute all documents necessary to effectuate the recording with the Westchester County Clerk of the above referenced documents, with toll to prepare any necessary documents, including the Westchester County prep forms, subject to approval by the village attorney, and with toll responsible to pay all fees and costs.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Karen.
It's actually, what's interesting here is it doesn't say what the gate system that's being put in place, gate control system, is for handicap accessibility.
Well, it's for village use
And village use for the, which was noted.
and for
maintenance.
prearranged handicapped accessibility, but we did note the road is not, really drivable for public
Right,
purposes.
it's not a, it's not a regular
And we
road.
don't have any parking.
Limited access.
We have no parking
Yeah.
established down to the
Yeah.
field. So it's something to consider for future.
Yeah,
And the plan was presented to the planning board, the gate plan, and approved by the planning board.
Correct.
What is open to the public now is a really lovely trail system that starts at the corner of County House Road and Wilson Park Drive and goes down behind the houses on Wilson Park Drive, down towards the high school. So it really is a lovely new trail system that it connects to the Lakes Trail behind the houses on Wilson Park Drive.
okay. Award of unit price additional work under existing contract for installation of sidewalk on Riverview Avenue, which, those of you who watched the meetings.
That's what they do.
That was,
Probably 2 weeks
Yeah.
ago.
no, much longer.
Oh, that one, oh, yeah.
On the meetings on the speed humps
Yeah.
that we had, in which discussion was of the Riverside Avenue.
Exactly right.
Of the Riverside Avenue to do a sidewalk running from Franklin up towards Glen.
To Glen,
and River
correct.
View. The corner there, where if you know that area, there's been a goat path worn
Bless you.
for years, which would turn to mud often. So it's a very heavily used area for people walking to the train station. So this is a resolution to authorize the installation of a sidewalk there. Be resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Tarrytown does hereby award a contract using the prices off the recent contract with Palladino Concrete Creations Corporation for installation of a sidewalk on the west side of Riverview Avenue from Glen Street to Franklin Street per their unit price bid, with an estimate based on estimated quantities of approximately $75,000. And be it further resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Tarrytown does hereby authorize and direct the village administrator to execute the necessary and appropriate paperwork to implement an addendum to the agreement with Palladino Concrete Creations Corporation, a WBE, of Mount Vernon, New York, for this unit price work for the installation of a sidewalk on Riverview Avenue.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, vehicle and traffic amendment, section 29173, schedule 8, stop intersections. Whereas it is noted that the purpose of this change is to increase pedestrian and motorist safety on West Sunnyside Lane at the intersection of the Old Croton Aqueduct. The eastbound portion of West Sunnyside Lane is within the boundaries of the Village of Irvington, and Irvington has already installed a stop sign at this location for eastbound traffic, and now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Tarrytown does hereby authorize the following code change. Section 29111, stop intersections of the village code states, quote, there's always one. The intersections described in Schedule 8, Section 29173, attached to and made part of this chapter are hereby designated as stop intersections. Stop signs shall be installed as provided therein. Section 29173 of the Village Code, Schedule 8, stop intersections states, in accordance with the provisions of Section 29111, the following described intersections are hereby designated as stop intersections, and stop signs shall be installed as follows. Following amendment should be made to Section 29173. Stop sign on Sunnyside Lane West, direction of travel is west, at the intersection of the Old Croton Aqueduct.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Basically, in English, this is putting a stop sign on the Tarrytown side of the road where the Old Croton Aqueduct intersects with Sunnyside Lane. And
Correct.
Irvington did it on the other side, so this makes a lot of sense. Vehicle and traffic amendment, left turn school bus exemption, Grove onto East Franklin onto Broadway. Be it resolved that currently the village code does not permit left turns on weekdays between 7 a.m. and 8 a.m. at the two intersections listed below. The Tarrytown School District has requested that a school bus exemption be put into place for these two intersections to accommodate the school bus route to the Washington Irving School. The village has permitted school bus exemptions in the past, and currently an exemption exists for left turns at Hamilton Place onto North Broadway. The East Franklin Street School Bus exemption, no left turn, weekdays 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. Grove Street School Bus exemption, no left turn, weekdays 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. The following bold code amendments should be made to accommodate this request, new language in bold. Section 291-71, Schedule 6, prohibited turn at intersections. A, in accordance with the provisions of Section 291-9, no person shall make the turn of the kind designated below at any of the following locations. So, name of the street is Franklin Street East, direction of travel is west. The left turn, then the new language is all vehicles except school buses, and the hours are 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. And on Grove Street, direction of travel is north. The new language is, left turn is prohibited, and the new language says all vehicles except school buses. Motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Next, the Halloween parade. Whereas the Village of Tarrytown will hold its annual Halloween parade on Saturday, October 26, 2019. And whereas the Board of Trustees of the Village of Tarrytown has been requested by the representative of business and of the Village Recreation Department's Halloween Parade Committee in 2017 to allow the consumption of beer and wine in a controlled area on Main Street as part of the parade. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Tarrytown does hereby grant permission for the sale and consumption of beer and wine in a controlled outdoor portion of Main Street between Caldenberg Place, John Street, and South Washington Street, and be it further resolved that each establishment must obtain a New York State Liquor Authority off-site premise permit, provide insurance naming the Village of Tarrytown as additional insured for this event, and adhere to the following limitations. A, the establishments must have a valid Village of Tarrytown Sidewalk Cafe permit. B, permitted hours for the sale of beer and wine outdoors will be 5:30 p.m. to 10 p.m. C, the establishments that sell and serve alcohol will be required to issue a bracelet to each person who possesses and has shown legal identification and proof as being of legal age to purchase alcohol. And D, it's only for Saturday, October 26, 2019, from 5:30 p.m. to 10 p.m.
Quick question, you got the chief of police's opinion on this, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, have a motion?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Richard, does this have did we do rain date if it was really raining, right? It's Sunday, right?
Is it the following night?
Usually it's
It was a
Sunday,
Sunday
yeah.
night.
Did we
I
have
think
to
we did
make-
that last, I
do we
think we
need
did
to-
that one year.
Yeah, do
Since
we
I've
need
been
to
here.
make a little addition to this? Is that if there's a rain date?
There is. It's the next
Hmm.
day I saw it.
Well, last year there was.
Yeah, we did move it a day.
Halloween
Now, since you just
parade.com.
jinxed it.
It's right. It's online.
I would bet.
Do you want to say rain date of October?
So,
26th?
and this,
Can I-
as E, this law applies to the rain date in the same conditions?
Yeah.
Okay, as amended, got a motion?
So moved
So
again.
moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Turkey Trot Street closures. Whereas the Village of Tarrytown will hold its annual Turkey Trot on Sunday, November 24th, 2019, at 9:30 a.m. with the start and finish at Pearson Park. Whereas the Turkey Trot race course will include the Tarrytown Riverwalk, portion of the Sleepy Hollow Riverwalk, West Main Street, and Green Street. And now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Tarrytown does hereby authorize the closure of portions of West Main Street, Green Street, and portions of the parking lot, which are lots F and G, as the turnaround points of the race on Sunday, November 24th, 2019, for the noted times of the race.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Notice of date change for 2 work sessions coming up, our work sessions. Be resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Tarrytown does hereby change the date of the following Board of Trustees work sessions. Wednesday, November 27th, 2019 will be changed to Monday, November 25th, 2019, and Wednesday, January 1st, 2020 will be changed to Monday, December 30th, 2019.
So moved.
Excuse me, will that be at the same time as our regular?
Same time.
It'll be
Yeah.
at 6.
Well, same time as the regular work session, so 6:15 starts.
So moved. I won't be here for the 30th.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
The minutes of the regular board meeting held on September 3rd, 2019, be resolved the Board of Trustees of the Village of Tarrytown does hereby approve the minutes of the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees held on September 3rd, 2019, as submitted by the village clerk. All in favor?
Aye.
Approval of the audited vouchers. Be resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Tarrytown does hereby approve abstract number 5 of audited vouchers in the total amount of $417,250.69 as presented by the village treasurer.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Paul?
Yes.
Yes.
Tom?
I vote yes.
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 Okay, there you go. And now, opportunity for the public to address the board on other items not on the agenda?
I just want to confirm, though, that there is a rain date. It's October 27th, 2019.
It's the following day.
Right. HalloweenParade.com. Anybody want more information?
Hi, Peter Bartolacci, 67 Miller. Just now that school's back in session and that I walked my kids to the door this morning and watched an SUV go flying through the stop sign at Park and Miller 30 seconds before they were ready to cross the street, I wanted to see if there is any update on what the situation is with the speed humps in Tarrytown.
Rich?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Bartolacci. The status is we're working with our village engineer and public works departments. We're trying to get information from the manufacturer. The original items that we specified were not available. They've upgraded and changed the material. I think at some point, so we're in the process of ordering them. We can have them installed once they're delivered, but we're talking about something like, I believe, I recall a number of 200 volts per piece, per section of speed hump, and they come in several sections. So it's something to discuss further with the board when we get them, but they are recommended as permanent installations. So if we're going to plow over them, either we'd have to take extra care, or we may want to reconsider this and go back to the original, the other idea of moving ahead with asphalt speed humps. But we are moving ahead with it at this time. So we don't have a specified date yet.
Okay. What about the hump on the lower section of Riverview, just north of Glen?
Richard,
Well,
you're going to take a second look at that.
We're taking a second look at that. Our engineer is trying to see if there's some way that we can do a smaller speed hump. Part of the problem is the road is very windy, and there are concerns about installing a speed hump on it because it could actually lead to an accident.
Okay. I just want to point out that that's exactly where we were 3 months ago. So
That's exactly
that's
what?
exactly where we were 3 months ago. We said we're going to take a look at it when I raised it at the public information meeting on June 26th. So
It's an unsafe area to put a speed hump, potentially. Because of the windiness.
Right. So has someone looked at it and determined whether we can or we can't, or whether there's an alternate solution? It's just, what I just heard is exactly where we were on June 26, 2019, 3 months ago. And I guess, it's kind of a little bit frustrating. We've known about this for a long time. We've been trying to get somewhere with it. And we're almost a year now from when we first, I think, brought this up. Is there a project plan? Are there deadlines? Are there milestones that the Board of Trustees monitors to make sure that things are progressing as planned?
We get updated. There isn't a project plan with not milestones. No,
Should-
there is
should-
not.
Should there be?
I don't believe so, actually, since they're working on it and there's been glitches in the process.
I would propose that a project plan be
Okay.
developed with some deadlines so that we can at least know.
Okay.
Right now, it's like, okay, we're going to go back and take a look at it.
Mhm.
And as I said, we're 3 months down the road, and we
Well,
said
I would argue that nothing has been done since that meeting when it was talked about and the residents agreed that not a permanent, that we try the speed humps that were not permanent. We went forward, we spoke to the construction companies that make those. We found out that it's not a great solution, and so now we have to look into something else. So I would argue that nothing has been done.
But the temporary ones were proposed months ago, long, I remember Mayor Fixel saying, excuse me, I'm speaking. Can I speak, please? And then I'll let you speak. I just want to address
Well, wait a
what
minute,
trust,
Peter.
I just want to,
Peter, I don't want you to think you can come in and control this meeting, okay? Yes, I will let you continue to speak, but don't tell me to wait until you finish.
Excuse me,
Excuse me,
excuse me, Deputy Mayor Butler. I was speaking and you,
And I said, you can continue to
My
speak,
God.
but don't be disrespectful. And I think
I
you're
am
being
not-
disrespectful.
I
But go
apo-
ahead, continue to speak.
Thank you. Well, I apologize if I sound disrespectful. Certainly wasn't the intent.
Okay? Continue.
Just to address what Trustee Brown was saying, you know, the temporary solution, I mean, I remember when the first discussions around speed humps came up, Mayor Fixel said, well, we should put in temporary ones. So, I mean, that's been in the works for, I mean, it's not something that came about on June 26th at the public information meeting. That was something that was brought up at the very, very genesis of this whole concept, was install temporary, because Mayor Fixel brought up that New Rochelle has a protocol that they put in temporary bumps for 6 months to see if they work and see what the public reaction is. So, you know, and when I refer to, you know, the nothing aspect, I was referring specifically to that speed hump on Riverview, on the lower part of Riverview, which is it's the most dangerous section, if you ask me, because people are coming down a hill, and then they go around a sharp bend, and there's traffic coming up the hill. So I think it's really important that we find a way to slow people down there. And there's parked cars right on that, and it's narrow. And on June 26th, well, I raised it a long time ago, even before that, because originally there was supposed to be a speed hump there, and then that was removed. And I asked the question, why was it removed? And it was because apparently there was too much of a hill there. But actually, the upper portion of that road is actually quite flat. And many residents said, oh, no, we definitely want some type of speed control there. So when I say little to nothing, I was referring to that, because on June 26th, we said we're going to take a look at it. And I just heard now, we're going to take a look at it.
Well, I'm not
So-
sure you heard my full statement, so.
Okay, so what was your full statement?
My full statement was that the engineer's evaluation is that it's not a proper or safe installation, but we said that we would take a look at it. Again,
Right, but that engineer's evaluation was on June 26, 2019. We knew that information then.
So there's really not much that's changed at that point. We're trying to explore some kind of smaller speed hump or something like that, and we found nothing that fits in that.
Okay. Well, my understanding was that the original speed hump location was on a hill. And the reason the engineers didn't want to install a speed hump on Lower Riverview is because where it was proposed was on a slant, and there was something about an 8-degree pitch, and they recommend nothing more than 1 to 2% or 4%.
There's a number of different standards,
Yeah.
not just the pitch, but also the windiness of the road. And you can't put a speed hump on a curb because it could cause the the wheels to jump, and then the car could lose control and spin out,
Okay, so-
get into an accident.
Anyway, I guess my point in coming here tonight is that we're anxious, everyone in the neighborhood is anxious. I brought it up to a few people, and they said, yeah, what the heck is going on? And so, you know, whatever we can do to speed this up. School's back in session. There are a lot of kids, and there's more kids moving in the neighborhood as people retire and move on. Pretty much every house that gets occupied is a young family with young children, and that's going to keep happening. And, you know, obviously there's a need for this, and it needs to get done. Just to end things on a positive note.
May I interject and continue?
Sure, sorry.
So my point is that what I heard is from the village administrator, that there were some issues about the speed bump. And the issues about the speed bump was either was it temporary, or we may have to go back and look at it because there's supposed to maybe a need for asphalt. So going forward is not that we haven't been looking at it and researching it, but we want to get it right the first time. We don't want to have to spend money to do something that'll have to be taken up. That's the way I understand it. So it looks like that our village engineer and outside engineers are taking different looks at it, and we will come up with a determination what is the correct course of action to use. And that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
One other question on the, I mean, we talked about it at the June 26th meeting. I brought up the issue that the specification on those humps is they're designed, I mean, the spec says they're ideal for residential locations to bring speeds down to 20 to 25 miles an hour. And the point I made is that really, we're going to be right back where we were. And I was suggesting something more, I called it abrupt, I think you referred to it as more aggressive. Is that something that's been looked at? Because again, if we're, if those humps will bring a car down to 25 miles an hour, that's the speed limit right now, and that speed limit is too fast.
We're following the standards that would comply with what's acceptable on a road. We can't go beyond that and try to apply standards for other installations that would work in a parking lot. We have to only work with what's authorized on roads. So that's kind of, those are the standards we are following.
For a speed hump.
For any kind of traffic calming measure, such as a speed hump or other similar installation.
Okay, it's interesting, because I know that in the past, there was talk of the road in Nyack. When you come off the throughway and you go straight, when you go through 9W and keep going to Midland, and then you go through that intersection and you start going down the hill, there's a road there that has speed humps on it. And I guarantee you, if you went 25 miles an hour over any of those speed humps, you would hit the ceiling of your car and the car would bottom out and you'd probably ruin your transmission and a lot of other components of your car.
No, I go on it every day. It's near the high school.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
It goes between Franklin and Midland, and they're asphalt.
Yeah, but they're big and they're very,
They're sort of medium.
Well, have you gone?
Yeah, I go on it every day just.
Right, but I'm saying, have you gone 25 miles an hour over it?
I don't know. I'll look next time.
I don't think you would.
It probably takes you 20, 25.
I tried.
It depends on your car too.
I tried it.
Yeah. And they also, the other thing that happens is sometimes when they're built that way, it's a little bit different than if you purchase one. Say if we're purchasing a composite one, whatever the hell they're made of, rubber, they're probably much more exacting standards of what they're designed to do. When a DPW comes out or a contractor comes out and builds it, they build it to a certain, and what it really comes out when it's on the street could be different. And if they get too aggressive, what you start having also, particularly if they're out of asphalt, they tend to get torn up. Aside from being noisy, in addition to being noisier. But I think there's some sweet spot in there that maybe you can hit. I mean, I know I've said this. I go on Rumsey Road in Yonkers all the time. They put speed humps on Rumsey Road. It slows you down to, you got to go under 40. Now maybe they had people going 60, and the purpose was to get people to stop going 60 and go 40. But so there is a level that clearly it would do nothing at that level. So if they were that smooth, it would be useless. So there's something of a problem, because then you have the standards that are promulgated by the highway safety, whatever it is that Richard and the engineers refers to, and once we're obligated to follow those, and we don't follow them at risk of liability if something were to happen. So that's sort of the conundrum that we have, is that there may be things that we all would like to do, but if the standards are such, we can't do that. So.
Yeah, there's a couple in Sleepy Hollow.
They also, it's also possible that they did not follow the rules. And we may be more nitpicky than other jurisdictions. But I can't I don't know what they've done, but there are ones in Sleepy Hollow, that's for sure.
There's different standards based on
Location, yeah.
Locations and engineering.
Yeah.
So maybe to answer your question, perhaps, Richard,
Yes, sir.
by the next board meeting, we could have some additional information from our engineers.
Yes,
We
I
can
will ask
address
report on the
this
next work session.
concerns.
And
Yes,
from
sir.
the company that's supposed to supply them. Because I do continue to feel that it makes a lot more sense to do the temporary ones, if it's possible. Because there are places they put them in and people hate them. And we had Church Street come out and say they don't want them at all.
That's right, Matt.
So-
That's great. I encourage that. Church Street doesn't want them, that's wonderful.
Right.
I have no issue with that.
Yeah, so, but I do think it makes sense to, if it's possible to do it in a temporary fashion, to do it that way, because it may turn out that either it doesn't work well, or two, in terms of slowing traffic down, or for other reasons it becomes untenable, so.
On a positive note, I want to thank the Department of Public Works. They fixed the sidewalk out in front of our house and did a really nice job. And my daughter's very happy because she doesn't hit the ceiling when she rides her bike. And they're doing a lot of fixing of the sidewalks on Independence and further down on Miller. So it's going to be great for kids because they're going to be able to ride their bikes all the way up and back again. And it'll be nice and smooth.
Without speed bumps.
No, no speed bumps. We may need them. And the other thing I'd like to know is what kind of grass does the Department of Public Works use? Because I cannot grow grass on the section of lawn between my sidewalk and the road for whatever reason. These guys put grass down and it's exploded.
Now.
It's amazing.
Magic.
It's exploded now. You'll see whether it lasts.
Well, it won't last because of the stuff from the snowplows, but.
Yeah, and the crabgrass comes and takes over.
Yeah. But anyway, thank you for that.
Okay.
They did a very
Thank you.
nice job. Thank you.
Thank you, good night.
With that, I'll take a motion.
So moved,
to-
Mr. Mayor.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you and good night.